We were supposed to leave for Prague in April 2020. Unfortunately, COVID had other ideas. Finally, on October 2nd, 2021, we were able to travel to the Czech Republic. We had a connection to Prague from Frankfurt. Unfortunately, due to some sort of computer systems issue at immigration, we were stuck in line for hours with thousands of other passengers. As a result, we missed our original connection to Prague. Luckily, we caught another flight at the very last minute. Our glamour excellent 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom apartment among the Spires was located next to the Vltava River in the Newtown area of Prague, between the National Theatre and the Dancing House. Because of our late arrival, and that we were all tired from our ordeal in Frankfurt, we decided to adjust the itinerary and just go out for an early dinner. After dinner, we relaxed and enjoyed the fine views from our private 8th floor terrace of the apartment. On the morning of October 4th, we took a tram from Karlovo na Městí to Náměstí Republiky. The Municipal House is one of Prague's most notable Art Nouveau architectural style buildings. Built between 1905 and 1912, it contains a concert hall and a few cafes. The Powder Tower, built about 500 years ago, was once the main gate into the old town of Prague. From the Powder Tower, we walked along part of the Royal Way to Ungelt. This courtyard was once a trading hub for foreign merchants.
You better be happy hour.
Old Town Square is the center of historic Prague and has existed as a market square since the 11th century. Towering over the square is the Church of Our Lady Before Teen. The chalice on the gable is a symbol of the Hussites. The Hussites were followers of Jan Hus, who was a church reformer about a century before Martin Luther. After speaking out against the sale of indulgences, he was arrested and burned at the stake at the Council of Constance in 1415. His death sparked a civil war in Bohemia between the Hussites and the Catholic forces loyal to the Holy Roman Emperor and the papacy. In the center of Old Town Square is a memorial to Jan Hus. The Old Town Hall was built in the 1350s. Its most notable feature is the astronomical clock. The top dial tells the time and the bottom dial is a calendar. Every hour, a skeleton to the side of the top dial rings a bell and the doors above the clock open. The 12 apostles shuffle past the open doorways and then a rooster at the very top crows. We took an elevator to the top of the Old Town Hall Tower. It provided excellent 360-degree views of the square as well as the rest of central Prague. While visiting the inside of the Old Town Hall, we could see the apostles from inside the clock. Next to Bethlehem Square is a statue called Man Hanging Out, by the famous Czech sculptor David Černý. The statue greatly resembles Sigmund Freud. We were going to visit Bethlehem Chapel, which is a reconstruction of the original Bethlehem Chapel where Jan Hus preached. Unfortunately, it was being used for some sort of an event, but I was able to briefly sneak inside. We next walked along Karlova Street and then on to the Charles Bridge. The Charles Bridge was built between the 14th and 15th centuries to replace an earlier bridge called the Judith Bridge. Along the sides of the bridge are many statues. Rubbing this plaque of St. John of Nepomuk is supposed to make your wishes come true. According to legend, the plaque is where he was thrown off the bridge and drowned on orders of the king for failing to divulge the queen's secrets. We took a tram up to the Prague Castle Quarter and had lunch at the Strahov Monastery Brewery. After lunch, we visited the Loretta. In the center of the grounds is the Santa Casa, which is a replica of the house where the Annunciation of Mary occurred. There is also a chapel dedicated to a fictitious bearded female saint. According to legend, she prayed to avoid an arranged marriage and sprouted a beard. This angered her father, who had her crucified. Prague Castle has existed in some form since the 9th century. It has been the seat of power for Bohemian kings, Holy Roman emperors, and the presidents of Czechoslovakia and later the Czech Republic. Construction of St. Vitus Cathedral began in 1344, and it wasn't finished until 1929. This stained glass window was designed by Czech Art Nouveau artist Alfons Mucha in 1931. St. John of Nepomuk's silver tomb is located within the cathedral.
Holy moly. That's a tree from the outside.
Vladislav Hall was built at the end of the 15th century in the old royal palace. It was used for banquets, receptions, coronations, and even jousting tournaments. It also contains replicas of the Czech crown jewels. The Basilica of St. George is one of the oldest structures at Prague Castle and contains tombs of early Bohemian kings. The Golden Lane gets its name from the goldsmiths who once worked here in the 17th century. The small houses were originally built to house Emperor Rudolf II's castle guards. The writer Franz Kafka once lived in one of the houses here in 1916. After leaving Prague Castle, we stopped by David Czerny's Piss sculpture. The two bronze men pee Czech literary quotes on a pool shaped like a map of the Czech Republic. On October 5th, we visited what is known as the Jewish Museum in the Jewish quarter of Prague. Most of the original buildings in the ghetto were torn down during the modernization of the area in 1897. The Pincus Synagogue was built in 1535. On the walls of the synagogue are handwritten names of 77,297 Czech Jews who were sent to and died at Auschwitz and other concentration camps during the Holocaust.
Auschwitz is Oswiecim. It's in Polish. So where is that? Oswiecim. That's Auschwitz. That's Auschwitz.
Upstairs there is a small exhibit with drawings made by children who were imprisoned in the Terezin transit and concentration camp. Of the 8,000 children sent to Terezin, only 240 survived. The old Jewish cemetery was the only burial ground for Jews in Prague between 1439 and 1787. Because of the limited space, the plots are as much as 8 graves deep. About 85,000 Jews were buried here. The Old New Synagogue was built in 1270 and is the oldest active synagogue in Central and Eastern Europe. It is called the Old New Synagogue because it was once new and then became old after newer synagogues were built. According to legend, Rabbi Lowe's golem is said to be hidden in the synagogue's attic. The Meisel Synagogue was built in the late 16th century by Mordecai Meisel, who was a counselor to Emperor Rudolph II. We had lunch near the Jewish quarter and then spent the rest of the day shopping.
Wood, right?
We're going by the jalopy, Jim.
We took a bus trip to Terezin. Terezin is a town that was originally built as a military fortress in 1780 and later became a prison and concentration camp. The Nazis dressed up Terezin as a model Jewish town in order to fool the Red Cross into thinking that the Jews were being treated well. Terezin was mainly used as a transit camp by the Nazis. Of the 150,000 Jews who were sent here from across Europe, nearly all died. Most were sent to other concentration camps such as Auschwitz. About 33,000 died at Terezin due to the harsh conditions.
I found this big one because I was going to whack.
During World War I, the small fortress at Terezin was used to hold prisoners who were opponents of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Gestapo mostly held political prisoners, Czech resistant members, and POWs at the small fortress during World War II.
Remember they housed those prisoners here before it became.
These non-working sinks were built to fool Red Cross inspectors. No pipes were ever installed. Shower rooms were built so that Jews would get used to communal showering before being sent to the death camps. Gavrila Princip was imprisoned here for assassinating Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914, which led to the outbreak of World War I. He died of tuberculosis in 1918. In the afternoon, we headed back to Prague and visited Wenceslas Square. There is a large statue of Wenceslas at the top of the square in front of the National Museum. The square has been the site of many historical events, including the protests against the Soviets during the Prague Spring of 1968 and the Velvet Revolution of 1989 that ended communist rule. We had dinner at U Pinkasu, which is known for serving tank beer. Tank beer is ultra-fresh, unpasteurized beer delivered direct from the brewery and stored in copper tanks.
There's the Vita Tico.
On October 7th, we took the metro to the main train station and then got on a train to Kutna Hora. Kutna Hora was once the second most important town in Bohemia behind Prague. Silver deposits were discovered in the surrounding area in the late 13th century, and much of Europe's silver coinage was minted here until the 16th century, when the mines began to run dry. The Sedlik ossuary is one of the more unusual sites located in the Czech Republic. This bone church is decorated with the bones of about 40,000 people. After the local cemetery was scattered with holy dirt from Jerusalem, Bohemian nobility wanted to be buried there, so the existing graves were dug up and the bones placed in the church. The local monks used the bones to remind people that the church was a community of both the living and the dead. In 1870, the local authorities commissioned a woodcarver to do something creative with the bones. St. Barbara's Cathedral was founded in 1388 by the local silver miners and is named after the patron saint of miners. It is probably the Czech Republic's second most magnificent church behind the St. Vitus Cathedral in Prague. Unfortunately, a British TV show was being filmed on the site, so we could not go inside.
Did you find out the name of the movie?
Not Terezin.
Spires can stay right there.
Kutna Hora has a flag column that was built in 1715. It was built as a memorial to the thousands who died of the plague that occurred in the town in 1713. We were supposed to take a short train trip from the Kutna Hora Mesto train station to the main station, but the train was replaced by a bus. Due to a train delay at the main station, we missed our connecting train in Kolín and had to wait to take the next train to Prague. After arriving in Prague, we all took our COVID tests that we needed for our return flight back to the US. On October 8th, we took a bus to Pribram. Pribram is where Janet's ancestors were originally from. In 1579, Emperor Rudolf II declared Pribram a royal mining town. It is the third largest city in the central Bohemian region of the Czech Republic, excluding Prague. Pribram's most notable site is probably Kutna Hora, or the Holy Mountain. To reach the Holy Mountain, one must enter a covered staircase and climb 365 steps representing each day of the year.
Exit strategy.
Kutna Hora is an important Marian pilgrimage site. According to legend, in the 13th century, a knight built a chapel on the hill to thank the Virgin Mary for answering his prayers and protecting him from robbers. In the 17th century, pilgrims began to travel to the Holy Mountain to see a carved wooden statue of the Virgin Mary and infant Jesus. In 1632, a blind man named Jan Prohaska had a dream about an old man who told him to go to the Holy Mountain and pray to the Virgin Mary if he wanted to regain his sight. After traveling to the mountain with his 8-year-old grandson, he miraculously regained his sight after 3 days of praying.
Outstanding job. We're beginning to get a little worried when you didn't.
After visiting the Holy Mountain, we walked back into town and had lunch. Ordering was tricky because the menu was only in Czech. Pribram evidently does not see very many English-speaking visitors. After arriving back in Prague, we did some more shopping and then headed back to our apartment. Before heading out for dinner at one of our favorite restaurants, Uspavačku, a few of us ventured out to take some pictures at sunset of the National Theatre, Charles Bridge, and Prague Castle from the Legion Bridge.
Right?
On our last full day in Prague, we crossed the Charles Bridge again and headed over to Malá Strana, or the Lesser Town. The John Lennon Wall has been filled with Lennon and Beatles-inspired graffiti since he was killed in 1980. The wall was a symbol of hope for freedom during the communist times. The Church of St. Nicholas was built by the Jesuits between 1703 and 1760. St. Nicholas is flanked by St. Ignatius Loyola and St. Francis Xavier, who founded the Jesuits. During the communist period, the tower attached to the church was used by the Czech secret police to spy on the neighboring US, British, and West German embassies. Most of the buildings in the lesser town were originally built between the 16th and 18th centuries. The Church of Our Lady the Victorious was originally a Lutheran church, but was given to the Carmelite Catholics by Emperor Ferdinand II in 1620 during the Counter-Reformation. It is now a pilgrimage site known for a famous statue called the Infant Jesus of Prague. It has become a focus of worship and tales of miracles from mainly Spanish-speaking countries. Every day, a Carmelite nun dresses the statue in a vestment whose color is based on the liturgical calendar. The memorial to the victims of communism was erected in 2002. It is dedicated to all those whose lives were ruined due to despotism. While most of us headed back to the apartment, a few of us continued on to see a few unusual statues located near Wenceslas Square. In the Laterna Palace is a statue of St. Wenceslas riding a dead upside-down horse. Like the man hanging out and the pith sculptures we saw earlier on the trip, it was created by Czech artist David Czerny. We also went to see another David Czerny statue, the head of Franz Kafka. The statue is 11 meters tall and consists of 42 rotating panels. Like our previous adventures, we had a light dinner in our apartment to mark the last night of another fantastic trip. On October 10th, we flew back to the United States. We did not have any issues in Frankfurt, but in Chicago we had to do some running to make our connection back to Nashville.